With the student loan forgiveness announcement already out to the public, which means the remaining balance of my student loans will be forgiven, let's actually take a trip down memory lane through the playlist of all of the resale pairs I really wanted, but I passed on to pay down the principal of my student loans.
I surround my soul with the positivity. That's why I don't worry about the things that I don't see. Yeah. These days I don't worry about much. I think we should have some more fun. I still dream about the days when we were young. I'll take a
What's going on, everybody? It's your girl TJ back. Another video on Talks with TJ, and we're pretty much putting a series to bed. It's done. There's truly no point about it at all whatsoever because, hey, student loans are forgiven, and that means the remaining balance of mine will be forgiven because I carry public loans only. So let's take a look back at the pairs that I passed on, and actually let's break down why I passed on. Go back to some of the older videos. I initially said, and I still felt this way, I wasn't looking to the government. I wasn't expecting them to be a savior. I knew I needed to take action. In the event, they never took action, and we got down to the last hour pretty much of when student loan repayments would kick back in before we found out anything officially from the government itself. So I held firm to that. I took action and I paid down a substantial amount of my loans, and I decided to showcase that on the channel here because, one, I like sharing personal finance on my channel. I know it's definitely different within sneakers and on sneaker YouTube, but then also I wanted it to serve just as an example to young adults that being able to do something and then being willing to do something are two very different things. So I'm able to drop money, and I was able during that time to drop money on a resale pair, especially a pair that I wanted, and I wanted each of these sneakers, but I wasn't willing to do that at the time, overpaying down the balance of my student loan debt. And to be honest with you, had I not taken those steps consistently month after month, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in where the cap of 10,000 it would apply to me. Now, granted, also, again, I'm a Pell Grant recipient, so I would get up to 20. But even then, I broke down in a very lengthy video the fact that most of my loans, I've paid them off and they're closed, and they're already closed on my credit report. So I have no idea the implications or how much I would have to fight to get that money refunded back to me from the payments and then get that money under the Pell Grant coverage to be forgiven. So I don't know that I want to go down that road, but if you take a look at the student loans versus resale sneakers playlist, there were 16 videos total, but I only started to document myself paying on these loans. I don't think I started to document that until 2021. Maybe it might have been 2021. It might have been a little before. Let's see. What's the oldest video that's here? Oldest published is, because I did not check, I always forget, this is when you do almost daily videos, I'm not even kidding you, it can become a little much to try and remember, but a year ago. Okay, so a year ago, which would have been, goodness, yeah, it's been a minute. Wow. All right, so let's go over just the pairs that I chose to pass on, right? If we're taking a look at this. So the dark Mocha one, and then also the Fear of God. So there were technically, I guess, two that I passed on, but more importantly, the Mocha one. So I wanted to highlight like, hey, I'm going to pass on that. And it was also the weathered black that I passed on, but over $695 was passed on. I could have gotten that pair for myself. I absolutely wanted it. If you skip ahead to the very next video, now this was in January, and I remember like speaking on this. You guys can go through and see the discipline that I wanted to showcase in the video. The Fear of God one. So we know my love for that pair. Yeah, that was passed on as well. We'll skip to the third video, and it's wild when you look back. Like, this seems like so long ago, but the Jordan 1 High Defiant SB LA to Chicago, I still love that pair. And that's not to say I won't now finally reach back for some of these pairs. I very well may do that, but it won't be right away for a lot of these. But the Sean Witherspoon Air Max 197, and I will say this on record, that's like the last pair he's made that I actually think is attractive in any way. Next came the Kobe one. I really still want this Kobe one. I still love it. I really want the camo one too, but the Kobe one was the next pair passed on. The Sakai LD Waffle, that OG pair, primary color pair. Such just, I mean, when they introduced that, they did something special. Moving ahead, I put the Wave Runner on there. Now, you guys know I own the Wave Runner, and I'm very happy to have that shoe. I wear it a lot. So I have the Wave Runner, so I'm happy to be able to have that. And then there was a double video of 2 different Yeezys instead that were passed on. And I still want these in the collection too. So 350 V2, well, one I already have, which is the Zebra, so cross that out. But then the Ash Pearl. That's one of the best colorways that's dropped for the 350 V2. Again, at least in my personal opinion. Moving along to the Aleli May 6, the Millennial Pink 6. It's one of the few pink sneakers for women that I feel like has been done well. It's been done right. I want that. I still want that. I passed on that though 11 months ago. The Air Jordan 11, the bread. Now remember, if you got it within the pack, you could have gone that route, and that would have cost $900. That absolutely was not done. And then $700, so I posted either the Travis Scott 6 or the Inertia 700, Yeezy Boost 700. Do we see like the self-control necessary to have passed on these? And I made a point, every shoe that I put on the list that I passed on instead to pay on the student debt, they were pairs I absolutely wanted in the collection. So following that, it was the Dunk Low Union LA Pistachio. I like a lot of what Union does with the Nike and Jordan brand. It doesn't necessarily mean that I go for all of them or I take L's when I go for them. But passed on that, the Air Max 1 Amsterdam. Yeah, I still want that too. That's on my GOAT wish list. It really is. Next, the Sakai Vapor Waffle Gum Bottom. That's actually one of the more reasonable pairs. I will say that, like, reasonably priced pairs still available on the secondary market. So I could see myself maybe going for that one. And then the most recent video that was added to that was the Bad Bunny blue tint. And we know I took an L on that if you've seen recent videos. So that was just a rundown of quite a few sneakers that I passed on that I could have picked up. But instead I said, hey, I'm able to pay for those, but I am more willing to pay down the student debt balance because I'm in a position to do so. And I am beyond grateful and fortunate for the position of, hey, the student loan balance that's remaining will be paid down. But I can't stand the assumption that people took an entire 2 years off and didn't do anything, and no one made an effort towards paying down their student debt that they signed on the dotted line for. So far from true. A lot of people that were in a position to pay down that debt, they did that, especially if their income remained stable during the lockdown and during everything we've endured over the last 2 years, just as people in this country. So I was one of those people. Again, I hope some young adult took something from this. Also, I hope you do not take out student loans. I really hope that was one of the messages that was driven home to you. But yeah, looking back, listen, there are a number of different I want to say this, just because you don't see someone doing something on social media, especially in sneakers, because there's this assumption sometimes that if people don't have certain pairs, it's because maybe they just can't afford them, or maybe they're not necessarily like, oh, plugged in like that. No, like, a lot of us can go and buy a pair if we really want a pair, if we're willing to pay that price for whatever it is. But it comes down to, there's an opportunity cost for everything. If you select to do something with that money, there are other things that then can't be done with that money. So I made the choice to pay down a significant amount of my student loan debt. And no, I don't regret that, because again, it put me in the position to benefit from the amount they capped for forgiveness. So which pair is your favorite that I listed here that I passed on over this recent time within sneakers? Go ahead and comment below which sneaker was your favorite. I really appreciate you guys tuning into any and all videos. As always, act your age, not your shoe size. Peace.